us start with the session. And yeah, once again, welcome. I see a lot of new faces today. So really happy to see that people are excited about the happy hours of coaching session. As you all know, this is an initiative which has started during pandemic and it is still continuing. We have a lot of speakers who come in and present their ideas. And today, I thought I will take a topic which I think many of us would have faced in interviews, right? Especially if scaled agile implementation is what is expected from the candidate, right? And I'm going to talk about a role called as a RTE, release train engineer, or an RTE role. A quick vote check here. How many of you know about this role? How many of you know about this role, RTE or release train engineer? Let me check that. Or how many of you are actually playing this role today? That also you can let me know. So if you're either playing this role or you're already aware about this role. Okay, so I see people saying, yes, you have heard about RTE. Okay. Some of you are saying heard about it, aware about it, not worked in this role. Okay, interesting. Yeah, I mean, that's precisely what I thought, that many of us would have heard about this role. Many of us would be aware about this role, but we might not have really or actually played this role. And yes, I mean, this is something which is there in Scaled Agile Framework, SAFe, about which I will be talking in detail. What exactly this role is all about, what does it entail, what are the key activities which are performed by a release train engineer, right? So yes, we will be definitely be talking about it. For those of you who are on LinkedIn Live and YouTube Live, don't worry, I will have a look at your comments as we go along. I'll definitely watch your comments. I'll be looking at your comments. Any questions you have, I will definitely come back and answer those comments towards the end of the session. So the format of this session is I will speak for around 30-35 minutes maximum, and then I will open up the floor for any question and answers. Just wanted to tell you one quick thing. The final authority on the subject obviously is with Scaled Agile Framework. This is my interpretation of the role, which I'm going to present practically what the role I have seen. So I have also played this role for a brief period, but my more contribution to this role has been as a coach when I actually worked with an RTE in couple of SAFe transformations. Okay, so that is predominantly my experience about this role. As an enterprise agile coach, I worked with RTEs, I groomed RTEs, I coached them and brought them into a place before I exited from the engagement. That predominantly has been the role which I have been playing as a agile coach. Okay, so I have played a role of an RT, but my primary experience comes from the coaching angle around it. All right, so something about myself, Ashutosh Bhatodekar here, enterprise agile coach, a trainer and a consultant. I still consider myself as a learner because I learn new things daily. Today also, I'm pretty sure I'll be learning a lot of new things. I'll be coming across a lot of new ideas, lot of, I would say, things which I can take back to my workplace. And I always believe in giving back to the community. And that's why you see these sessions regularly happening. Just wanted to let you know that we have a YouTube channel where you can actually watch 80 plus videos. Okay, so we have 80 plus videos on the YouTube channel. You can watch them. I'm sure these videos will help you in your journey. These videos will actually help you grow in your career. So in case you have not subscribed to our YouTube channel, I would sincerely request all of you to subscribe to my YouTube channel. And because as I said, right, I mean, it is definitely going to help you. I mean, that is the feedback which I have been getting from people also, that this definitely helps us. It definitely helps us in clearing interviews. We have now videos covering almost on all the topics. We have videos covering on Scaled Agile Framework. We have videos covering on coaching. We have videos covering on even transformation matrix. So you name it, we have a topic there on our YouTube channel. So in case anyone is interested, you can subscribe to the YouTube channel. I'm sharing the link with all of you. It will definitely help us if we get more subscribers to create more content, right? Obviously, as a coach, as a trainer, if I'm giving back something, the motivation level is not money. The motivation level is your likes, dislikes also for that matter. Likes, dislikes, comments, subscription. It's a free subscription. All you need to do is click on that. But that is the biggest motivation what we get as coaches, right? So that's about myself. And yeah, those of you who are on LinkedIn Live, you will also get the link of the YouTube channel. But if you go to YouTube and if you search Agile Coaching and Leadership Transformation, the channel would be visible to you. Right now also this feed is going on LinkedIn Live as well as YouTube. So that's where this feed is actually going on right now. So I have around 21 years of experience. My agile journey started around 13 years back when I became a Scrum Master for one of the engagements. And since then, I have grown into an agile coach, an enterprise agile coach. I also got myself SPC certified around 1.5 years back. And so that's where my knowledge about this subject has evolved over a period of time, right? So that's in brief about myself. I help organizations in their transformation journey from a traditional way of working into an agile way of working, right? So I help coach leaders, I help coach middle managers, team members in their journey from a traditional way of working into an agile way of working, as I said. Okay. I also have a meetup group, Pune Agile Thought Leaders. It is on meetup.com. We also have a Telegram group where we publish job openings at periodic intervals. We try to help people. So if you are interested, you can also subscribe to the Telegram group. Again, I will share the details as we move along. So that's in brief about myself. And let us come to the topic. Let us directly barge into the topic. But before I come to the topic of the RTE or the release train engineer, because this is a very unique term. Release train engineer is a term which you don't find in any other frameworks. You either have a Scrum Master, you have an Agile leader. I mean, those terms you hear out, right? Or it could also be an delivery leader, right? Agile delivery leaders. Those are the terms what you hear. But this release train engineer is a very strange term, right? I mean, at least it was a strange term. It appeared as a very strange term to me first time when I heard it. I mean, what exactly is this role? What is this person actually doing, right? What exactly he or she is supposed to do? So some background. So Scaled Agile Framework, the website is www.scaledagileframework.com. Moment you hit on the landing page, you come to see this big picture, right? And I know a lot of people have got a lot of opinions or views about this big picture, but this big picture is basically the transformation roadmap which SAFe is trying to talk about. So if you see on this big picture, you might get lost in that maze. It's like entering into a maze and not finding your way out, right? But believe me, it's a very, very structured way in which they have defined it. Okay. First of all, it's a clickable interface, which means you click on anything, you immediately come to the meaning of the term. So if you go on the Scaled Agile website, one advantage you have is everything is defined. It has got a brilliant piece of literature. So if you want to learn anything on Scaled Agile Framework, all you have to do is go on that website, click on that interface, and then it appears. Like, for example, I want to learn about Scrum Master. I just go on this scaledagileframework.com website. I click on Scrum Master, and then a page comes up here, right? Then you will see a literature which will come up, which will describe the roles and responsibilities. That's what I would say is the beauty of this entire website which has been created here, right? So that's one of the critical advantage what you see. Like here, if I click on customer centricity has come. I clicked on Scrum Master actually came on screen. And then there are videos also. You can watch the videos also. So they have a good source of content which is running into pages and pages. You have to literally immerse yourself to learn about it. Okay. So if you look at the background of Scaled Agile Framework, the first release came in 2011, which is almost 11 years back. And there have been 5 major versions of it. So we have had 5 versions of it, and the latest version is 5.1. The latest version what we have of SAFe is 5.1. So over the years, this framework has evolved itself pretty well, I would say. And yes, this is one of the in-demand scaling framework. We might have our own opinions. We might have our own views about it. We may like it, love it, hate it, but you can't ignore it, as they say, right? You might love this framework, you might hate this framework, but you definitely cannot ignore this framework. I would put it in that way. Okay. So, and this stand was there even when I was not certified in SAFe. Okay, so this was the stand which I had when I was not myself certified as an SPC or a SAFe Agilist. Love it, hate it, you cannot ignore it, right? And SAFe is based on concepts of scaling, lean, DevOps, and agile. So the four elements come in together. Scaling concept, how do I scale from let's say a team level to a program level to a portfolio level? What are the lean practices which I need to use? How do I blend DevOps into this? And what are the agile practices? What clearly are the agile practices which I need to have? So SAFE clearly talks about these four elements, or these are the four critical elements which Scaled Agile Framework or SAFE talks about it, right? And as I said, 5 major versions have gone through it. So moving ahead, what I have tried to do is I have tried to demystify this picture. So does anyone know about the levels of SAFE? I mean, how exactly is SAFE configured? Any idea about the level? Yeah, what are the levels of SAFE which are there? Anyone knows about it? There are some levels of SAFE. I mean, those of you who have done SAFE certification would be aware. Portfolio, enterprise. No, there is nothing called as enterprise. There is nothing called as an enterprise. Okay, there are three. There are 4 major levels. I have only shown 3 here. Full, portfolio, large solution, and essential. This picture only talks about 3 levels. But you also have a full level, right? Full level is all of them. Portfolio, large, essential, basically those are the 3 levels. Full is of course a configuration. Full is of course a configuration which is there. And one interesting thing you will find in Scaled Agile Framework is, unlike Scrum, how many roles are there in a Scrum team? Can anyone tell me? If I go by the classic Scrum definition, how many roles exist in a Scrum team? 3 roles, right? 3 roles exist in a Scrum team: the Scrum Master, the PO, and the team. Now here you can clearly see, you will be overwhelmed with the number of roles what you are seeing here, right? You can see so many roles which are on the left hand side of that vertical panel which are there. You have epic owners, you have enterprise architects, you have solution train engineer, you have solution management, solution architect, business owners, you have product management, you have RTE, which is what we are going to talk about today, release train engineer. And then of course, in essential layer, you have the agile team, the product owner, and the scrum master. So in this slide, I have tried to briefly describe the roles, what exactly are the roles these people are playing. But of course, the focus of this particular webinar today will be on the role of an RTE. Right, so we'll be predominantly talking about the roles and responsibility which an RTE brings to the table. What essentially is the responsibility? How is RTE different from a project manager? Because many times people think that RTE is equivalent to project manager, but that's not the case, right? Just because you're a project manager or a program manager, you don't become an RTE, right? There's a fundamental difference in the 2 roles which we'll try to see. Right, let us move ahead. Let us further try to move ahead, and let us try to understand this in detail. Okay, so first of all, I do see a lot of interesting comments coming. See, SAFE is an ocean. Okay, it's a treasure. So it may not be possible to cover everything in this packed session, right? We can have a separate session for the PI planning. Definitely, that's a good feedback I have got. So we'll definitely have a session on PI planning. What exactly is PI planning? But I'll talk briefly about it as we go ahead. Okay, I'll talk briefly about it. What exactly is PI planning as we move along the journey? Okay, so let us bring the focus back on the release train engineer role. And release train engineer is called as the chief scrum master for the train. Now, train is a word which is unique to Scaled Agile Framework, and it is actually the technical word for train is ART. And ART stands for Agile Release Train. So that is a technical word, but to put it in a layman language, we can say that the release train engineer is the chief scrum master for the train, right? So this is a person who is the main engine driver. If I were to say the engine driver of an agile release train, or the loco pilot, if I were to say, is the release train engineer. If the release train engineer is gone, the entire train will collapse by itself, right? I mean, what happens in a real train also, right? If the engine driver falls asleep, accident would happen. Or if the engine driver is inefficient, then there will be a lot of chaos, right? He or she might miss some of the signals, right? The role of an engine driver is to observe the signals, right? And of course, he is assisted by his co-loco pilot and all. But if the loco pilot himself or herself is not attentive, definitely the train could meet with an accident, or it could result in a delay in reaching its destination. So that's fundamentally the role what a release train engineer plays in a safe transformation, right? He or she is a release train engineer is the chief scrum master. There's another role which plays somewhat similar activities, but at a bigger level, and that is solution train engineer. But that is not we are going to talk about today. So we are not really going to talk about the STE or the solution train engineer, someone who's at I would say at a solution level. Large solution means, let us say you are building an aircraft. You are building a supersonic aircraft with all the digital controls in it. That can be an example of a large solution safe engagement. Most of us will be working on essential safe to start our journey, majority of us. But you might get an opportunity to work in a portfolio level where you interact with the leadership team at an enterprise or at a government level. You might get an opportunity to work in a large solution safe, as I said, especially if you're working in an aircraft, supersonic aircraft manufacturing unit. So those are the places where you might get an opportunity to work on a large solution safe. But yeah, coming back to the focus back, shifting to release train engineer, the chief scrum master, he or she is the servant leader. He or she is the chief scrum master and acts like a servant leader on the team. How many of you do not know what is servant leader? How many of you do not know? Okay, I'm not asking how many of you know. How many of you do not know who or what exactly is servant leadership? Let me wait for the response here on the chat. Okay, so I think everyone knows, I can safely assume that everyone knows servant leadership. You don't know. Okay, so servant leadership style is a style where the leader is basically protecting the team. The leader protects the team. The leader makes sure that the team's impediments and blockers are resolved. So gone are the days when we had a traditional command and control leader. The leadership style, which is now vouched for in the industry, is a servant leadership style, where the leader is someone who's more like a coach, a mentor, and a guide, someone who's there to protect the team, someone who's there to take care for the team, someone who's there to coach the team. That is a servant leadership concept. We will talk about it in detail in subsequent slides. If you want to learn more about servant leadership, I have a video where I've tried to map servant leadership with the Lion King movie. So those of you who have watched this Lion King movie of Disney, it came, I think, around before pandemic, 2018, I think it came, if I'm not mistaken. The entire movie is based on the servant leadership concept. It's a very beautiful movie. I would strongly recommend all of you to watch it. The best source of servant leadership is in that movie. None of us trainers like me, or for that matter, any training person in the world can explain servant leadership better than that movie. Don't worry, I don't have any rights from Disney. Okay, I'm not earning any royalty from them, but I'm just telling you, this is a movie which actually imbibes the servant leadership concept. The Lion King from Disney. Okay, so that is what what I would request you to do it. Okay, the Lion King. The name of the movie is Lion King. It's from Disney, Walt Disney production. All right. So someone who's a servant leader, someone who's the coach for the agile release train. Now, let us first understand what is agile release train, because I'm sure many of you would not be knowing what is an agile release train. An agile release train is a virtual organization, and it comprises between 5 to 12 agile teams. So roughly the members what you have in an agile release train is on the lower scale, it can be 50. And on the higher scale, it can go up to 120, approximately 120. So it's a virtual organization. And remember, the RTE is the chief scrum master. So the RTE is here. RT is the one who's driving the engine. Okay, RT is the one who's going to control the entire engine. A virtual organization of 5 to 12 agile teams. It is synchronized on a common cadence called as program increment. So program increment is a time-boxed event which runs for approximately 5 to 6 sprints. Again, the choices you're between 8 to 12 weeks is what they say. The program increment runs. In that program increment, we divide that into iterations. And then we deliver a incremental value at the end of each at the end of each iteration, at the end of program increment. So there's a vision. There's a common mission and a vision via a single program backlog. So there exists a single program backlog. From the program backlog, each team is going to derive its own team backlog. Each team will be having its own team backlog from the program backlog. So these 5 to 12 agile teams, they will be basically deriving the team backlog. But this is the chief scrum master, and agile release train, as I said, is a virtual organization. Okay, now those of you who are from India, I'm sure you would have attended a wedding in your family, right? You would have attended a wedding in your family, right? And you see that one person does all the things, right? This person obviously is not the person who's getting wedded. It's not the bride or the groom, right? But one person takes control of that entire wedding planning. So I always give this example that agile release train is like that big fat Indian wedding, right? Where there are so many things to be taken care of. And believe me, if you go to that wedding house 1 week before the wedding, you yourself will get lost. How will this wedding happen? So many things are yet to be done. We don't know who's the caterer, who's going to supply the food. We don't know who's the photographer. We don't know who's the videographer. We don't know the florist, or the florist is saying that I will come for only 2 hours that day. But there's one person who's trying to coordinate everything, right? I'm sure you would have experienced, especially people from India, where we have I'm talking about the pre-COVID days where you used to have 400, 500 people or even 1,000 people in a wedding. All those arrangements had to be made. The florist, then basically the decorator, then the stage person, the person who will supply dress to the bride and the groom, the jewelries. I mean, it was a mad, crazy house you would have seen, right, just before the wedding. But suddenly on the wedding day, what happens? Suddenly on the wedding day, what is the experience? So what do you think? Suddenly on the wedding day, everything falls in place, right? And you never know that there is so much of a chaos or a confusion which was there. So that one pivotal person who was playing that role is a release train engineer in that wedding, or a chief scrum master, if I were to say, because that person is the one who actually interacts and facilitates this conversation. So the agile release train is something similar to that. Remember, these teams are cross-functional teams, and they have all the capabilities, whether it is software, hardware, firmware, architecture, you name it, and they have the capabilities to do it, right? So that's basically the agile release train, what we call it, right? It's a virtual organization. It's not a permanent organization. It's a virtual organization which is drawn by picking up people from different teams. So the servant leader and the coach for the agile release train is the chief scrum master, or the ITE. ITE, one of the activities is to facilitate the art event. So there are multiple art events. Okay, there are multiple art events which are there, and obviously we are not going into the details of them, but you have the PI planning meeting, you have the inspect and adapt workshop, you have the system demo. So there are multiple art events and processes which the chief scrum master is going to work towards it, and someone who will assist the team in delivering value. Okay, this person is the one who's going to deliver the value, right? Someone who's going to assist the team in delivering the value, and someone who will remove impediments and blockers and also do risk management. So that's a multifold or a multi-dimensional set of activities which have to be done. Now I'll give you my experience as an RT. The first engagement as an RT, even I was lost completely. And believe me, our first PI was a big disaster. The first program increment, which I was an RT, was a big disaster. But then again, Agile talks about inspect and adapt. You learn from those failures and then you improve yourself, right? So here, at least we get a chance. Unlike that big fat Indian wedding, we don't get a chance, right? Everything has to come in place on the wedding day. Here, at least we get a chance of going in for the next PI, right? So it's a very strategic role. Remember, it's not a role like at a tactical level. It's a very, very strategic role. You interact with all the layers of management, be it the senior leadership team, the CXO, CIO level, the middle management, and of course, you interact with the team. So it's one role which goes up and down, vertically up and vertically down, and also it basically spreads horizontally. So that's the quick definition of an RTE, or a release train engineer, for all of you. Now, some of the important things the RTE does, I'm not going to read out these. This is a very exhaustive list. So one of the important event where the RTE works is to make sure that all these 5 to 12 agile teams, whatever are there in the art, they are ready for the PI planning meeting. Remember, PI planning meeting is a 2-day event. It begins before the PI starts, and it's a 2-day event where all the teams have to come together at one location. I mean, I'm talking about the pre-COVID era, where all the teams used to be co-located in a one big room. And RTE is the one who facilitates the PI planning meeting. Now, of course, in a virtual world, we see all these events have shifted into an online mode, but still we do have this PI planning meeting where the RTE is going to facilitate all these conversations. So one of the important things is RTE has to make sure that all the teams are ready for the PI planning meeting. So there has to be a vision and a roadmap coming in from the business. There has to be a program backlog which is ready from the product management team. And then there has to be a PI readiness from the team perspective. So that's one of the fundamental things which the RTE has to ensure. The RTE usually publishes a calendar in advance. So in 1 year in advance, we'll publish, this is where our PI number 1 will start, PI number 2 will end, PI number 1 will end, with the events clearly articulated. Then PI number 2, when will it start, when will it end? So that's the calendar which an RTE is going to be, RTE is going to publish. The third most important thing is RTE always has to ensure that the team is delivering value. The team is delivering value. Okay, so there are tools like program Kanban board, information radiators, dependency bolts. So those are the tools which an RTE uses, right? So this person has to ensure that the team is constantly going to deliver value. The RTE also needs to ensure that there's a perfect alignment between the program PI objectives and the team PI objectives. So let me explain this. So the role in a PI planning is that you come out with a program objectives. You come out with what is called as a program objectives, and each team will also come out with its team objectives. Each team will also have its team objectives. So it should not happen that my team objectives and my program objectives are misaligned with each other, or there is no coordination between the two, right? So ultimately the RTE needs to ensure that the team objectives have to roll over into a PI objectives, and he or she will publish those. He or she will publish those objectives. And apart from the fact that there are other events which an RTE facilitates, which are called as art sync up events, be it the Scrum of Scrum events, where all the Scrum Masters come on a common forum to discuss any dependencies or any blockages, or Scrum of Product Owners, right? So that's another role of an RTE. The RTE might challenge the product team and make sure that there's an economic decision making being applied. Right. So especially this applies from an estimation perspective, right? That are we taking the right set of prioritized epics? Have we done a detailed economic analysis on the value or a return on investment which the epic is going to give us, right? So that's also another important role for an RTE. And also coaching the teams. And as I said, it's a strategic role. It's not a technical role. It's a very, very strategic role. Chief Scrum Masters, we call it as a Chief Scrum Master. So RTE interacts with the leadership team, middle management, and coaches them along lean, agile, and DevOps practices. Okay, so that's another important role which an RTE has. It's a very exhaustive list. If you look at the job description of an RTE, you will see it's a pretty exhaustive list which will come up. Obviously, the usual ones like help manage risks, address any critical bottlenecks, any dependencies, then works with the leadership team in defining the product vision, strategic and execution alignment, and ensures at a team level that the team delivers the value through continuous delivery pipeline. So what is continuous delivery pipeline? You can see on the Scaled Agile Framework website. Right. So continuous delivery pipeline consists of continuous exploration, continuous integration, continuous deployment, and release on demand. So those are the 4 elements where continuous delivery pipeline exists. Now, something interesting which I have probably seen only in or maybe I may be wrong, maybe I have not read that well, but you know what? Scaled Agile Framework talks about the Agile Program Management Office or the Lean Agile Center of Excellence. So RTE is a part of Agile Program Management Office or Lean Agile Center of Excellence. So the Lean Agile Center of Excellence, which is popularly called as LACE, L-A-C-E, Lean Agile Center of Excellence, or the PMO or the Program Management Office, they also ensure that the best practices are always cultivated, and the Chief Scrum Master or the RTE picks up those best practices and deploys it in the team and make sure that the team follows them. So that's also one of the very interesting role which an RTE plays. The RTE also understands and operates how budgeting needs to be done at a strategic level, at a portfolio level, and how do we adhere to the guardrails, right? That, of course, is a separate topic by itself, right? Guardrails is separate topic by itself, which is there. I mean, each of this statement here, what you see here, it can actually be converted into a webinar of 45 minutes, what I'm trying to tell here. I mean, it's such a vast role. It's not an easy role to perform an RTE in a scaled agile transformation. The RTE drives relentless improvement via the inspect and adapt workshop. So the RTE has to always challenge the team that you have to improve yourself. You have to be on that journey of continuous improvement, right? You have to continuously improve. Whatever we did yesterday, was a history. Today is another day, right? So today we have to improve ourselves. And most important thing, I mean, this many people neglect, and RTE establishes community of practices, or COP is what we call it. So the RTE might establish a community of practice for Scrum Master, product owner, architects, BAs. So for these, the community of practices could be established. Community of practices is a forum where different people come together and they share ideas. Okay, now SAFe does not prescribe it, but what I had also done in the transformation was that, yes, we had a COP for Scrum Master, we had a COP for product owner, we had a COP for business analysts and architects. And what we used to do is we used to tell them that you should also meet internally. It is not that only the Scrum Master should come for a COP meeting. We used to have a cross COP meetings also, which were planned once every 30 days or something like that. Community of practice, we said it should be ideally be weekly, but we started with fortnightly and then we brought it to weekly, just to make sure that people should not feel that it's a waste of time. And then we said that the cross-pollination of idea, or the cross-fertilization of idea between the various COPs should also happen. And we kept it for only half an hour. Initially, we started with only half an hour. Okay, one general mantra I would like to give you as a coach: whenever you are setting a meeting, right, do not set a meeting for 1 hour. People generally think that it's a long meeting. Set a meeting for half an hour. Believe me, it works. So whenever you're trying to coach a leader, if you are coaching for a leader, and if you tell him that I need 1 hour of your time, believe me, 1 year you will spend in getting a time slot from that leader. But if you tell that leader that I need only 25 minutes, I'll set up a half an hour meeting, believe me, the leader will immediately accept the meeting. I mean, this is something which is coming from my experience. Okay, feel free to differ with this. This has nothing to do with SAFe. This is just a general coaching gyan or an idea which I'm giving you. Try to set up a meeting for half an hour. Don't try to set a meeting for 1 hour or more than 1 hour. Believe me, leaders will not come. They will always say, I'm busy, I have this deliverable, I have this quarter is ending, so I have to publish these reports. Just set for half an hour. In fact, I've also set up meetings for 15 minutes. Yeah, thanks, Irene. Yeah, even I have done that. 15 minutes meeting is what I have also set up. And it's okay. I mean, if the 15-minute meeting goes on for 20-25 minutes, that's okay. Right. So try that mantra. Believe me, it will work. I mean, that's an additional tip I'm giving, nothing to do with Scaled Agile Framework or anything around it. Okay, let us move ahead. Let us further try to move ahead and understand this. So yeah, I'm not going into the details of these roles. It is a very, very vast ocean. As I said, I can actually conduct a webinar on each one of these points separately for 45 minutes. Okay, that's the richness of the content which is there for each of these activities. But I'm pretty sure that it is a very exhaustive role, you would have realized by now, right? The role of an RTE is not something which will actually anyone can do it, right? Someone who has been an experienced Scrum Master, someone who has understood the dependencies, managed it, will be the person who can pick up this RTE role, or who can be groomed into this RTE role. Okay, moving ahead. So as we discussed earlier, RTs are servant leaders. And what is the definition of a servant leader? Robert Greenleaf, as I said, is the person who crafted this definition in 1970. Okay, so this is not a new definition, servant leader. 1970, Robert Greenleaf first crafted this definition, where he said, good leaders must first become good servants. Now, this is a slightly dichotomy here, right? I mean, slight paradox here, right? Because leader is someone who's supposed to command, right? I mean, that is the meaning we have of a leader, if I go by the dictionary meaning. And servant is someone who's supposed to obey the leader. But we are combining these two terms here: servant, leadership. And we are saying that an agile coach or RTE should be a servant leader, or for that matter, even a Scrum Master should be a servant leader. So any examples of servant leadership you can think of? Let's try to be non-controversial here. Any example of servant leadership you can think of? From leadership perspective, I'm just asking you. It could be from any field. It could be from any field. I mean, it could be from politics, it could be from sociology, it could be from HR, it could be from education. What is the best example of servant leadership? Mom at home. Good, yeah, mom at home. Okay, APJ Abdul Kalam. Yeah, best example is APJ Abdul Kalam, Martin Luther King, right? That is an example of servant leadership. Mahatma Gandhi, right? So those are some of the examples, okay, of Nelson Mandela. I mean, those are examples of servant leadership, what we have, right? So it's not a new term. It's not a new term which is there. It has been there for a long period. And if you want to know more about servant leadership, what are the attributes, you can go and watch my video on servant leadership. I have shot a video on Lion King, how the Lion King movie imbibes the servant leadership concept. So definitely go ahead and watch it, right? So who's a servant leader? A servant leader, as I said, is a someone who will protect the team, someone who will not tell the team what needs to be done, but someone who will help the team in achieving what they have decided to do, someone who will empathize with the team, someone who will make sure that any bottlenecks or roadblocks are removed on the way. So that's the role of a servant leader, someone who coaches the team to think beyond day-to-day activities. Yes, day-to-day activities we all will be doing, but we have to think beyond day-to-day activities, supporting the team's commitment and making sure that the team becomes a high-performing team at the end of the day. So a lot of tools we can use to bring about the servant leadership culture. We have to be strong emotionally, so we need to display a strong emotional intelligence when we are displaying servant leadership, and someone who basically possesses an high EQ, right? Not just IQ, but a high EQ. So that's the role which an RTE has to imbibe, right? I mean, apart from the things what we saw earlier, those were more safe specific responsibilities. But at the core of the personality, the core personality of a servant leader is someone who's empathetic, someone who is caring for the team, someone who is protecting the team. That's the servant leadership attribute, what we call it, right? And that is what we all have to imbibe into. So when I interview an RTE candidate, let's say someone is there for an RTE interview, I'm not going to ask that candidate about these things, because these things I know he or she would be having. We actually evaluate whether the candidate possesses servant leadership traits, or is it more like still a kind of a traditional project manager with the command and control traits in this, right? So there are ways of evaluating: the way you frame the question, the way you put across a scenario based situation in front of the candidate, that will help you analyze whether the candidate is really playing the role of a servant leader, or it is just for the namesake he or she has written in the resume that I am a servant leader, right? So there are techniques, there are open-ended questions, there are probing techniques, there are driving techniques. You drive a person to answer something, which actually helps the interviewer to understand the real experience which the person is carrying. All right, moving to a couple of my last slides which are there. So how do I transform myself from a traditional manager, let's say a project or a program manager, to an RTE or a servant leader? That is what is the primary focus, right? Because I'm sure many of you would have now become excited to play this role, right? Even if one person is excited to play this RTE role from what I have talked in last 25-30 minutes, I would still say that this webinar is a successful webinar. So anyone quickly just wanted to check, anyone who is excited to play this role in your career, RTE role? Anyone who's excited to play this role? Yes or no? It could be no also. That's okay. I mean, I'm not forcing you to play this role. But even if one person is excited to play this role, I would say that this webinar has achieved its purpose. Okay. Okay. So that's what I would say here. Okay. Let us understand this. Okay. So how do I transform myself? Let's assume that I'm playing a project manager role. Okay, how do I transform myself to play into an RT role? So as a project manager, one of the activities I do is coordinate. I ask people, okay, have you filled in timesheet? So it's Friday today, right? So if I'm a traditional project manager, by 6 o'clock, I would have sent an email, please fill in your timesheet or tell me the status update. So on Monday morning, when XYZ, you come to office, you start work on this. That is typical activity I do from coordinating team. No, I have to change myself. My primary focus has to move from coordinating teams to coaching teams to collaborate. Make the teams self-organize. I am there to protect the team, coach the team, but I'm not there to monitor the team. See, one important thing you need to understand is project manager plays a role like a cop, always monitors, right? If anyone makes a mistake, I'm there to catch. But a servant leader plays the role of a coach. So if someone has made a mistake, this person will guide how to avoid this mistake or learn from mistakes and become a better person. So from coordinating teams to coaching teams to collaborate, from looking at deadlines to looking at objectives. That's a big change, by the way. It's not easy. It looks only one word here, but basically to move from here to here, many people take years, right? And especially when you as coaches coach traditional managers, they somehow don't come out of this deadline mindset. They're still focused heavily on deadline, and it actually becomes a deadline for everyone. Deadline, right? I mean, you actually are almost half dead by the time that deadline actually reaches you, right? So this is the most difficult part. Believe me, it's only one word. It looks like a very, very small word, but it's a big cultural change. It's a big mindset change. You have to change the thinking pattern of leaders. And this is where most of the time of coaches goes in. Driving towards outcome to basically be invested in program objectives. Yes, outcomes will happen. If you have the right structures in place, outcomes will happen, but you have to invest yourself into program objectives. And last but not the least is not what matters that have you fixed the problem. How have you helped the teams in identifying the problem themselves and fixing them. That's the role of an RTE, what you have to vie for. So the right hand side is the most important thing. You have to actually do a major tectonic shift from the way you have been working on the left hand side into a right hand side. So to all the aspiring RTEs, I would say that this is a very exciting journey. I have myself played this role. It's a very, very exciting journey. There's a lot of fun in this job. It's a very, very pressured job. Definitely, I'm not denying that. But the advantage, what you see is you interact with all the layers of leadership. You interact with the various layers of leadership. You grow in your career because this is where you are looking more at a strategic role and not at a tactical role. So that's the growth path for an RTE, which I thought I will share with you. I know I have taken some extra time for this, but we still have basically some more time around it for any question and answer. So now I'm going to open the floor for question and answer. So if anyone has question and answers, you can unmute yourself and ask. I will appreciate if you're asking questions, if you can come on camera so that we can see each other. So I would really appreciate if you can do that. Yeah, we are now opening the floor for any questions. And those of you who are on LinkedIn Live and YouTube, if you have any questions, do reach out to me. I'll be more than happy to answer those questions. Yeah, so you can unmute yourself now and please share your thoughts or views or whatever you would like to share with the audience.
Is this RTE role equivalent to Agile coach role?
Anyone, any questions? So you can unmute yourself. As I said, there's an unmute button available. You can unmute and you can speak.
Hello, sir. This is Pramod. Hello. Able to hear me?
Wait a minute. I think I'm not able to hear. Give me a minute. Give me a minute.
We are able to hear you.
Yeah. I know. Sorry for that. Yeah, there's some problem in the connection. So I'm taking a different headphone. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, sorry. You're saying something?
Just to understand well, in the normal Agile project, we have Scrum Masters and Agile coach. Whether this Agile coach is more relevant to the RTE role as well, because I see some similarities on that.
Some similarities are there. Some similarities definitely are there. But as I said in the beginning, right, this is a term, this is a role which exists in the Scaled Agile Framework role. But definitely some similarities are there. Now, there you will find that the coach, I mean, let's say that you're having multiple Agile teams. And the coach there could be playing some activities of an RTE role. I would say that, yes.
Okay. Assuming like if I supposed to take this specific role, is there any specific ladder which I have to go But for example, I cannot be a direct RT from day one, right? So I need to be an expert to a larger extent in Scrum or Kanban or any other specific activity. Then I can take this role, or I can directly undergo the RTE training program in SAFE and directly be an RT in a SAFE project. How is it?
Yeah, I got your question. So I'm not going to talk about any certification here, but definitely training would be required. Training definitely would be required, but and more than training, I would say experience would be required. How are you coaching multiple agile teams? I would put it in that way. It is not just training and certification. Training and certification is just one part of the equation. In fact, I did SPC very late. I mean, it's not that there was any reason for not doing it earlier, but I did it last year. I told you, right? But I have been working in safe engagement since 2000. When was it? 2015. 2015-16, towards the end of 2015 is when I first got a safe engagement, and in that I had been playing this role. So I mean, I did not even feel the need of getting trained or certified, because as I said, right, I mean, you learn more on the job rather than through that class. Definitely knowledge and certification is important, I'm not denying that, but what I'm trying is you will learn a lot of things, how to interact with leaders more on the ground, if I were to say it in that way. I hope I've answered your question.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
Ashutosh, if I might make two observations from my experience.
Sure. Go ahead. Yeah,
The first, what is, I'm just talking from my experience. Yeah, I am not an RTE, so, but in my experience, what I've seen is the RTE is also a Scrum Master for a team. In most places, wherever I've seen SAFE being used, the RTE is also having, they're not a kind of exclusive or full-time RTE. They play the RTE role, but they also manage a team as well. So they're the Scrum Master for a team and an RTE. And the second observation is that usually it's the RTE that runs the Scrum of Scrums.
Correct. That is correct.
Yeah. So any inputs, any advice from you would be welcome.
Sure, Siddharth. Thanks a lot. So I will answer your second question first. Yes, the RTE facilitates the Scrum of Scrum, which is, I know I did not go into the details of it, but this is what is one of the roles and responsibilities of the RTE, the Art Sync, as we call it, right? Agile Release Train Sync. The Scrum of Scrum is facilitated by an RTE. Now, coming to your first question, generally it is not recommended to have the RTE also being a Scrum Master for the team. I mean, there's nothing wrong in doing it, but then you already saw, right, how many activities as an RTE I have to do. And on top of it, if I have to facilitate a Scrum team, then it becomes a little overhead. But you might have an RTE shadowing, RTE playing that role for maybe 1 or 2 sprints, then basically creating a Scrum Master in that team and then exiting and going into an RTE role. That I have seen many times, but permanently playing that role, Scrum Master and an RTE, I personally feel, this is my opinion, feel free to disagree, but I personally feel that this will be too much of an expectation from that role.
I'm not agreeing or disagreeing. I'm just saying what I have seen.
Perfect. Yes. And yeah, which is, I mean, see, again, I always believe that these frameworks are not rules as such. Okay. I mean, they are at the end of the day, how you interpret it. Okay. How you interpret it, right? I mean, that's why we are lawyers also, right? The judge. Ultimately, there is a law book which is available in every country. There's a constitution of the country. There is a law book available. But what matters is how the judge interprets that constitution or that law book, and then gives a judgment, right? It is based on the interpretation of the judge. So yes, I mean, something similar could be happening here also, like the way you interpret it, or you feel there is a real burning need for an RTE to play the role of a Scrum Master. Probably that could be the triggering point why this has happened in that particular engagement, what you are talking about.
So Ashutosh Hirine, this is a wonderful question, and thanks our dear colleague here for this. So I can say that you need to first be very good at playing league. Then
playing what? Sorry, I lost you. Playing
started at a league level.
League level.
Sports.
Okay.
League. Then go to
right.
State level, then national level, and then international level. So the previous question also was very good that, just by getting certification, you try getting into an RTE role. And as you said, Sashutosh, in the opening remarks, right, you will really have a big challenge on hands. So experience, practical on the ground, like if you have been a Scrum Master and you have been a Scrum Master, then I think you will easily fit into the RTE shoes. Because the scale of the responsibilities can be overwhelming for someone who's not been there and done that.
Exactly. I mean, let's say that I've just facilitated one Scrum team as a Scrum Master, and suddenly I aspire to be an RT. But then definitely, as I said, that I myself faced that issue in the first PI planning itself. All the chinks in my armor were exposed, if I were to put it that way, right? So definitely you get exposed because see, you don't really have a chance because you're exposed to all the layers of the leadership, right? The top, middle, senior management, middle management, junior management. You actually get exposed to all the layers, which obviously you have to be always on your toes. I mean, I still remember those 2 days of PI planning meeting. I would not have slept for more than 2 hours in that entire 2-day period. Okay, so that's the challenge which I faced. Again, not trying to boast anything here, but just trying to tell you the reality. And I'm sure many of us who are transitioning into this role will have similar such challenges. Believe me, you will come back to me and say that, okay, how do I handle it? Or you will tell that, okay, you know what, we slept not even for half an hour in that 2-day period. It's actually you're always on your toes. You don't even have time for breathing, if I were to put it.
Maybe, I don't know. I may be completely wrong. But perhaps, I don't know, it could be that, it's to do with the culture and geography. I mean, obviously, I'm not, I live in the UK. I work in Europe. So I'm going to share for the whole group, of course, where I observed these 2 examples. I'm currently with Yorkshire Water, which is one of the UK's largest, one of the biggest utility companies. They supply water to the entire north of England. We have 8 teams. Okay, we have 8 Scrum teams under the SAFE, under the Agile Release Train. The 8, maybe 9 teams. So the RTE is also a Scrum Master. Now, if I go back about 2 years, I was on a project with Carrefour, which is Europe's largest hyperchain market. And there were 14 teams. 14 teams. The same thing I observed there, that the RTE was also a Scrum Master. Yeah. Maybe, like I said, maybe it is just that,
Yeah, sorry, go ahead. Sorry for interrupting. Go ahead.
No, I was just thinking, is this something to do with the geography? I mean, is this peculiar to Europe and it doesn't happen in India?
No, that Scrum Master that you are specifying must be really an experienced one.
Oh, of course. Yeah. All of them are very, very well experienced. I mean, first of all, let me say, I have been in the agile space for only the last, 15, 16 years of my life. And there are people who are far more experienced than I am.
Yeah. That's a good observation. And you are bringing in I would say, a good insight, right? And this is something like a global perspective, right? In Europe and US, in APAC, other regions, typically big regions, let's say Europe and Americas, we have seen big T's. We use these phrases like horizontal T's and big T's. So if you see a Scrum Master in India, an average, I would say, experienced Scrum Master would be anywhere somewhere between 5 to 10 years. Experienced Scrum Masters 10 to 15 years. But in the US, I have seen Scrum Masters for 20 years also. And they are very effective. Not that, so the effectiveness comes with the experience, where your soft skills have been polished through the years, through your own experience, through your own learning. and you're able to connect, relate, because that's where all these qualities of a servant leader gets imbibed in you. You're able to connect, you're able to empathize with the team, you're able to support the teams, you're able to help them, coach them, and guide them, fix this so that they can fix their own problems. Right?
Yeah,
And it
I
also
completely
situational.
agree.
When you are leading a team which is new, which is still just learned walking from crawling, then you may have to adopt a slightly different side. Again, I'm not debating here, but I'm just trying to share some insights from my experience. But because you brought a very wonderful point, right?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, but that regional angle, I agree. I mean, maybe we'll have to, maybe we can brainstorm later what if there's a regional angle or in some other such things where we talk about cultural nuances of role. I mean, I have an idea around this that, I mean, it's a very sensitive topic. Maybe I'll need help. I alone cannot present on that topic. I'm very candid here. Maybe my one thought which came in my mind was maybe we should have one talk. I mean, it can be on any forum, the cultural nuances of all these roles, whether it's a scrum master, product owner, and let us say RTE or agile coach. What are the cultural dimensions? I know it's a very sensitive topic. We cannot really generalize because even in India, we have so much of diversity, right? But that is a thought in my mind. I'm still not daring to take that topic because of, the reasons, all of you. So definitely this topic, I don't think one person can present it. It has to be a group of people so that if people are beaten up, it's a group which gets beaten up. No, just kidding here. But what I'm trying to tell is the serious thing is that it's a very sensitive topic. And I mean, to bring about, you need to have lot of study, it has to be backed by a lot of data and research. I just cannot come and say that, okay, XYZ region person is like this and ABC region is like this, right? It involves lot of experiment, lot of data analysis, lot of talks, coaching sessions, and don't only I think one can go ahead and talk about that session. Again, that's my view. I don't know if someone gets an idea, can present it, but this is something which has been in my mind for pretty long now. But I have not been dared enough to take it forward, to be very honest.
One interesting thing which I will say, and again, I'm talking about Europe. I think it's the same for the US as well as for Australia, New Zealand, or whatever. That in all these countries, the majority of the techies, if you're looking at developer, doesn't matter, front end, back end, interface, whatever, any developer, any QA guy, tester, database guy, SQL, architect, DBA, forget what. I don't know whether you're aware, but more than 80, which is a very significant number, more than 80% of techies are Indians.
Okay.
Yeah. Forget what passport they hold. All right. I have a British passport. Yeah. Forget my passport. Forget my citizenship. But culturally speaking, they are Indians.
Correct.
Yeah. So I think that plays a very big part. And surprisingly, you will find very few people in the Scrum Master role, in the RT role, etc., who are Indians.
Okay.
I am a rarity.
Interesting. No, that's what I said. I mean, you are lucky to have that data with you. So that's why your all this analysis is coming from that data, which is good thing, right? I mean, to be very honest,
I said 80% in a generalistic way. In the UK, it is 86%.
Correct.
I'm talking hard statistics. 86%. 86% of techies are Indians. Yeah.
We are the provider of the tech powerhouse of the whole world. Yeah.
Oh yes, absolutely.
So there's a gap, there's a huge demand, and then the supply. So, and not like I'm kind of stereotyping, but I think Indians are smart workers, and they just need the right kind of environment to progress and flourish. Not to say that the environment here in India is not conducive.
Hiren, have you used the older Windows? Ever heard of Windows
Yeah,
3.1,
I started with
3.11?
Windows 95.
Yes, yes.
Before that,
Oh, forget
also.
95. I'm talking 3.11.
3.1 I have
3.1
used.
also
Yeah,
I have started.
3.1
Yeah,
I
I've
have
used that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When Windows 3.11 was being made, when it was released, I was the beta tester
Awesome.
for Windows 3.11. No, listen very carefully. When that was released, I was a beta tester, and 23% of techies were Indians. Okay. That was Windows 3.11. By the time Windows XP happened, 65% of the techies were Indians. And today, even their CEO is an Indian.
Yeah, 5 of my classmates are in Seattle in the headquarters, Microsoft.
There you go. There you
Yeah.
go. So there is
No,
no
these
doubt
are
about
good
it that
statistics, good
Indians are the
numbers.
power.
Good
Indians are
observation.
the techies.
Definitely, these are good statistics. And yeah, I mean, the whole intention about this also was that we should have more people vying for an RT role. As I said, even if, and I did get a good feedback, good feedback in the sense that people are interested in picking up this role as they go along the journey. Yeah, and I think to your point, Hiren, right? Maybe I can do something on the PI planning. Let me see, because obviously
sure.
it's an ocean, as you would have seen by now, right? I mean, it's
Yeah,
a
and
big ocean.
also let's talk about that other interesting outside effect of this discussion about you were talking about this sensitive stuff about geographical diversity
Let's
factors. I think that could be interesting. I might be interested to check that out because I did a Globe Smart survey, which is I think it's taken over by a new firm. I don't know, but Globe Smart is a firm, a global firm, which does this diversity analysis across all the regions of the world, like kind of doing a personality assessment of a person in America versus a person in India versus a person in China or Japan, and how global organizations, their expats, they are tuned to these diverse culture and personality traits in order so that they can successfully work with their offshore organizations, right? So it is all outcome of globalization as multinational large organizations have spread across the world, but they could not really figure out how to deal with the regional cultural diversity that they were faced with. So let's talk about that, Ashutosh, and see if we can spin off something.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks for the wonderful
I
session.
think,
Really appreciate this. Today's session was very
thanks a
interesting.
lot. Thanks a lot. Yeah, I think we are almost over time. And so first of all, thanks for all of you joining, and thanks to the people on LinkedIn Live and YouTube Live for giving the feedback. I did sneak into the feedback in between as we were having discussion here. If you have any questions one-on-one, please reach out to me. Kindly reach out to me one-on-one. I'll be more than happy to talk with you. And also, if you have any views, do share it with me. So on that note, I think we will close this program. So thanks a lot, and have a wonderful weekend ahead. And stay healthy, stay safe. Bye for now.
Cheers. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks very much. Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you very much, Hasan, sir.